The first-degree murder trial of a slain 13-year-old Burnaby, British Columbia girl has just wrapped up today. Now, a jury is tasked with coming up with the verdict as to whether or not Ibrahim Ali, the Syrian national accused of the sexual assault and murder of the child just a few months after arriving to Canada as a refugee, is guilty as charged. I'm Drea Humphrey with Rebel News, bringing you an important update on what went down in Vancouver's BC Supreme Court today, December 7th, which is a Thursday, before deliberations began. If you have children in the room, I advise you not to let them watch this report. I've just returned home from Supreme Court after 12 jurors finished deliberations around 7 p.m. without a verdict for tonight. There have been many twists and turns in this case, which began back in April, some of which I'm able to discuss with you in this report, but others I'm unable to, just because of a series of publication bans that prohibit media from publishing things like the name and image of the victim, and more uniquely, even prohibiting members of the public from making certain comments about the case on social media. The jurors' day kicked off today with Justice Lance Bernard handing down a lengthy series of pre-deliberation instructions to them, starting by reminding them of what their duty is. Justice Bernard told the then 13 jurors that they are the judges of the facts and to let him be the judge of the sentencing if they assess the evidence and find Ali guilty of murder in the first or a lesser charge, such as murder in the second, which could lack intent. The justice also explained that the jurors are to rule on whether or not Ali is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and if they cannot agree unanimously that he is, the Crown prosecutors have failed to prove their case. The most significant portion of the instructions for the jury were focused on the justice recapping some of the gruesome evidence and testimony they've heard over the last several months about how the 13-year-old victim's day started off as one typical to many teens on July 18, 2017. She said goodbye to her mother. She went off to half-day summer school. She had lunch with a friend, hung out at Tim Hortons, and around 6 p.m. made her way into a popular Burnaby park where she would tragically never come out alive from. It's in that park that the child was likely walking alone with earpods when Ibrahim Ali, who at the time was a new single military-age refugee from Syria, has been accused of dragging the child off of a trail into a more forested area, brutally sexually assaulting her, and then strangling the life out of her. At one point, I could hear sniffles in the full courtroom as the justice went over an expert opinion on some of the injuries the young child suffered to her rectum. I took this dark moment to assess how Mr. Ali's composure was while the details were being read. He looked far too relaxed in his black leather chair, leaning back in it, making it bob just ever so slightly, while his hands were pursed like this the entire time. I also looked back a couple of rows behind Ali, where the girl's brother, who's arrived from Beijing, normally sits, to see how he was coping during this time. And to no surprise, he was no longer inside of the courtroom, and I assume chose to sit that part out. He came back a little later. Another piece of evidence discussed was the pooling of Ali's semen that was discovered in the child's vagina when her body was discovered. A pathologist had testified to the fact that semen is subject to gravity, naturally making it unlikely for Ali and the girl to have had sex with each other earlier in some unspecified location, like his defense argued, because the girl was found laying with the pool of semen inside her, and also there was no semen found on her underwear that had been pulled away. As I reported on previously, one of the defense attorneys, Kevin McCullough, who's got a reputation for being ferocious in the courtroom, stated in closing arguments that Ali was handsome in 2017, and therefore it's not outlandish to believe that the child could have been attracted to him, and that the Crown's depiction of the child, well, she wasn't that innocent. The argument here is that the two could have had consensual sex elsewhere and somebody else could have killed her in the park. But even if that sex wasn't consensual, the DA reminded the jury that they can only find Ali guilty if there's no reasonable doubt that someone else could kill her. For example, earlier on, I reported that one of the first officers to arrive on the scene during cross examination by McCullough admitted to speaking with a male film crew worker near the park, but also that the RCMP did not investigate that individual. I also have a report coming up where I interview some of the supporters of the family's situation, where they let people know why all Canadians should be concerned with this case. You're not going to want to miss that. So if you haven't done so already, go to rebelnews.com and give us your email so we never lose touch. Drea Humphrey for Rebel News. If you agree that this is an important case to follow, go to rebelnews.com and give us your email so we don't lose touch. You can also give us a little more information like your postal code so we know what reports relate to you the best. Again, that's rebelnews.com. There's plenty more to find out about what's happening in the world.